Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Yasser, how's it going?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. Not bad.
Alhamdulillah.
Tired, but I'm like doing good.
Alhamdulillah. How's your Ramadan?
It's been busy.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Yasser, how's it going?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Yeah, it's been busy. We're actually in the middle of tired, but I'm like doing good. Just wrapping some stuff up at home. So
Oh, wow.
have a lot of the stuff for the youth work that we're doing, some of the masjid work.
How's your Ramadan?
Trying to stay home,
been busy.
trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Alhamdulillah, yeah. That's awesome.
How's Ramadan for you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Yasser, how's it going?
Just working. Well,
Yeah, it's been busy. Where are you working?
I work at a
but
university.
I'm like doing good. Just wrapping stuff up at home. So have that. Have a lot of online classes. The youth work we're doing, some of the masjid work.
Everything.
Trying to stay home. Been busy. Stay alive.
What was that?
It's been good.
No, I go to college. That's awesome.
How's Ramadan for you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Yasser, how's it going?
Just working. Well,
Yeah, it's been busy. Today we're doing our stuff up at home.
Yeah, just Q&A. We have had a couple of questions. Let me just actually say that we're taking questions.
Sure.
I feel like this is going to be a good topic because a lot of these times, like, the youth are really embarrassed to ask questions that they actually want to know answers to.
And you know what? I think that is a very, I think that's a very outdated feeling because, like, back in the days when we were kids, like the Molisabs, right? What we call them, the sheikhs, the masjid.
Yeah.
They kind of didn't go through the struggles that we went through, right? Their life was different and our life was different. But I feel like, and so we always felt ashamed or felt like, if we asked them something, we're going to be judged. On the other hand, the scholars nowadays, they're from America. They kind of went through these same struggles. They understand, they fight the same battles that the youth fights. To a certain degree, I feel like, that feeling, we have to overcome that feeling and kind of be okay to connect with our scholars. Alhamdulillah, like here in Dallas, there are a lot of scholars that are dedicated to youth and they're waiting for someone to engage. I know Ali Diaz, he reaches out to me all the time. Hey, Sheikh, what do you think about this? Sheikh, what do you think of this? And he's like, sorry for hitting you up. I'm like, man, anytime. There's no question that a person shouldn't feel comfortable asking.
Yeah.
And they say that the only bad question is a question that you don't ask. But I think this would be good. Just like you said, there's some questions that people are ashamed to ask or they don't know who to ask. So I think this would be good that maybe we can go through some of these questions and answer them for folks.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because, a lot of the times, like, you feel like there's a very big disconnect with, like, your scholars. Like, it's, especially going through what we're going through today, I feel like it's really important that you need to have at least some sort of relationship with them or connection with them so that they can help you out with your stuff.
So, and that's the thing, like, to build that connection, I think both parties have to be, like, working.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. It's a two-way street. I completely.
I think it is definitely a two-way street. So a lot of times people are like, well, I don't have a connection with my scholar. Have you ever reached out to him? Have you ever spoken to him? Right? And the purpose of them being there is to provide for you, is to help you, kind of guide you through these struggles. So they're open to build a relationship. So. It's just like I said, it's a two-way street. They have to make time. The youth have to kind of get over that fear of being judged by the scholars. Which again, I think at one point in time it was a legitimate concern. But inshallah, let's answer some of these questions.
All right, so inshallah we'll get started here. So we'll just go through the questions. I don't think we'll get through them. I apologize if we don't go through your question, but if you do have any question, you can just post them in the question box or in the comments. Inshallah, we'll try to get to them. So the first one up is, if he performed ghusl, is it required to do wudu in order to pray namaz?
Okay, so to pray salah, if a person does ghusl, does he have to do, or does he or she have to do wudu as well? Now, according to Imam Shafi rahmatullahi, intention for wudu is mandatory, right? Intention is mandatory, which means that you have to make intention that I'm doing ghusl and I'm doing wudu, right? So even when you're just doing wudu at home, outside, or you're just doing wudu at the masjid or somewhere and you're not doing ghusl, you have to have intention according to Imam Shafi rahmatullahi. However, according to Imam Hanifa rahmatullahi, as long as the conditions of wudu are met, right? There are 4 conditions of wudu according to Imam Hanifa. They are from hairline to below your chin, earlobe to earlobe, everything in between must be covered, and you have to make sure all of it is wet. The second is from your fingertips to below your elbows. Third is wiping over your head. Fourth is your feet, including your ankles. And if these 4 parts are done, basically you get water all over your face, water all over your hand, over your feet, on your head. It could be a ghusl, it could be a shower, it could be accidentally getting pushed into the pool, it could be standing outside in the rain. And as long as these 4 conditions are met, your wudu is complete.
So the main thing is the intention.
According to Imam Shafi, you have to have the intention that, I'm doing wudu as well. According to Imam Hanifa, you don't have to have intention, right? Me and you are standing by the pool, you push me over, I fall into the pool, I don't have the intention, I get out, everything's wet, I'm good to go. My wudu is complete.
Okay.
So if a person is Shafi fit, then they have to have when they're going for a ghusl, they have to make the intention that I'm going to be doing wudu as well. And if they're Hanafi, then their wudu is complete as is. Now, at the same time, when we say the word ghusl, what makes a ghusl different from a shower? And they are 3 steps. Okay? And the 3 steps are, number 1, you make sure that your whole body is covered with water. Okay? So let's say, for example, what does it mean? What does the ghusl mean? Ghusl means is that if you are in the state of impurity, the state of impurity is achieved. You get into the state of impurity if a person has a wet dream, a person has relationships, a person, for a sister, they're in the cycle, a person leaves the fold of Islam, they are now in the state of impurity. They have to purify themselves to be able to read Quran, to be able to touch the Quran, to be able to come into the masjid, to be able to praise Allah. And the way that they purify themselves from a major impurity is by doing ghusl. A ghusl is different from a shower. A shower, basically, you put water on your body, you get out. Maybe you might put some soap on, some shampoo, sing a song, you're done. Right? A ghusl, you got to make sure 3 things. Number 1, everything, top to bottom, every single inch of your body or millimeter of your body is covered with water, which means under your arms, in your ears, your belly button, any of the hard to reach spots, you make sure that you get water in there as well. Then number 2 is that you gargle. You put water in your mouth and you gargle. Again, gargling is only in the state when you're not in the state of fasting. If you're fasting, then you're just going to rinse your mouth. Right? So gargling is putting water in your mouth, spitting out, that's gargling. Now, if you do that while you're fasting, what's going to happen?
You might get water inside.
Your water is going to trickle down. So that's why while you're fasting, you put in your mouth and you rinse your mouth.
Okay.
The third condition is putting water into the hard bone of your nose. You put water, either you sniff it, you wet your fingers, put it in there, clean your nose. These are the 3 steps of ghusl. And this one now Islamically purifies a person if they're in the state of a major impurity.
Okay. Now going to the next question, going on with what you said, the water trickling down. So this is a pretty. Everyone has this question. Can you brush your teeth while fasting?
Can you brush your teeth while fasting? So brushing your teeth while fasting, a lot of scholars say it's makruh, it's disliked, and the reason why they say it's disliked is that something might, either toothpaste or water might trickle down. Now, tasting something while in the state of fasting does not break your wudu. So basically, if you taste the mint of the toothpaste, you're brushing your teeth, right? And somehow you can make sure water doesn't trickle down your throat. Let's say you tilt your head forward and you brush your teeth, and you spit everything out, and you make sure nothing goes down your throat, then you're fine. So again, tasting doesn't break your wudu. It's whenever something goes down your throat into your stomach, that's what breaks your not your fast, not wudu, but your fast. So let's say, for example, if you're cooking food, right, and you're worried that, okay, I'm going to be delivering food to my boys are going to be coming over, and I don't want to look like a fool, so I want to just make sure the food is decent. You can take it and taste it. You can taste the food, but you can't eat it. Okay, so you can't take like a bite out of chicken. You just taste the sauce. There you go. But you can't. You don't eat it. So tasting something doesn't break it. So if you taste the mint or the menthol of the toothpaste, you're fine. Just as long as the person makes sure it doesn't come down the throat. Now, the disclaimer to that is there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says that this odor, the smell, the bad breath from the mouth of a person who's fasting is more dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than musk. Musk is like a very, it's a very pure form of perfume. It comes from the stomach of a deer. And so the Prophet is saying when you are uncomfortable with the bad smell in your mouth, that's actually very dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a part of your sacrifice for your struggle. But let's say, for example, somebody is just not comfortable at all. They have to brush. Okay. Otherwise, tough it out, and inshallah subhanahu will reward you.
Okay. So going on to the next question, I feel like this is a very prominent one when it comes to the youth. Where'd it go? So the question is, I feel very disconnected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in my namaz, in my salah. What do you recommend?
So we actually had a session on khushu. Our first session was all about khushu and focusing in salah. I think Zuhair, he was with me. And we did like a 45-minute discussion on how to focus. We shared a lot of tips. But let's take a step back. So a person said, I feel disconnected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we say, especially in my salah. Now, when a person feels disconnected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and actually all three of these line up, right? So to worship Allah and really connect yourself with Allah, you have to first connect yourself with Allah outside of salah, right? So ibadah means worship. It requires muhabba. Ibadah requires muhabba. The only way that you can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and it will not be a burden to you and you can really connect to it is if you love Allah. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's say for example, somebody comes to you and said, "You want bow down to me." If you don't like this person, we're completely we're not talking about shirk or anything like that. Just nothing like aqidah wise. But the person says, "Bow down to me." You want to do it until you love this person. Or let's say the person said, "You want go make me a burger, right? Or go do something for me." Any type of obedience requires love. When you love somebody, it's easy to obey them, right? And that's why we obey our parents. That's why we obey, our spouses, our children. I get home from work, I'm tired. My daughter goes to me, "Abba, let's go out." And I'm like, "Oh, come on!" But I lace up my boots and let's go. Why? Because love. So obedience and ibadah requires muhabba. It requires love. When you love somebody, it's easy to now obey them. And now when you're praying to Allah, there's a meaning behind it. But muhabba, it requires ma'rifah. So to love somebody, you have to know that person.
Okay.
If you don't know that person, it's not possible for you to love that person or love that being. which means to worship Allah and really connect yourself and feel a bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to first love Him. And to love Allah, you have to first understand and know who He is. Right? So this takes time where you now read through and listen and kind of reflect and ponder upon the characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is Allah? He is the all-seeing. He is the all-hearing. And I always tell people that the best way to understand Tawheed is not through proof. Tawheed is believing the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that defines who Allah is. And the best way to understand Tawheed is not through proofs. Like, don't debate with yourself, but it's through spirituality. Who is Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that when I was driving on the highway and I wasn't paying attention and I almost crossed into the lane, but the last second I saw the car, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved my life. Or maybe I didn't see the car, that car hit the brakes at the perfect time, and I hit the brakes at the perfect time. It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved me.
So it's little stuff like that. Like if you thank God, like in a situation like that, it's gonna get closer to God.
It helps you understand who He is.
Okay.
So every time that you were in a bind and He accepted your dua, every time you needed food and He provided food for you, and you look at all the different names of Allah. Right? Every time that He came through, His come through rate in your life, understand that, and then you will understand who Allah is. Once you understand who Allah is and how great He is, then it's easy for you to love Him, because we all love greatness, right? It's easy to love greatness. It's easy to love something that's perfect. So now from ma'rifah, from understanding who He is, you then go into muhabba, and from muhabba, you then go into ibadah. And this chain now becomes much easier. But for a person to even take on this journey, they can't say, well, that's too much work, I'm out. But, it just takes some time. But when you take on the journey and go through this process, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Because, we look at salah and we look at namaz, and I actually, as of recently, I've been teaching a book, Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, Beginning of Guidance, and Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, he hits on this really hard. And he talks about that, salah, when we look at salah, what is salah for us? Salah is that when we were young kids in Sunday school, or maybe even before Sunday school, our mother told us to come stand next to her. Our dad said, say Allahu Akbar, and you said Allahu Akbar, and if you looked around, you probably got slapped in the back of the head, right? That's what it was, right? And then you went to Sunday school, and the Moli Sahib was there, and the Moli Sahib was like, look down, look here, do this, do that, do this, say this. And a relationship or an understanding of salah, unfortunately, is very negative. Because we're always forced into salah. And anything that somebody's forced into, they will always have a very distant relationship with that thing. Because we were forced into it because when we woke up, like when our parents woke us up, like, do you pray salah? Do you pray salah? Get up and pray salah. And it was like a punishment.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to pause my life, get that out of the way, and then resume in my life. So again, it's a very negative relationship, and that's why that negativity lasts until you understand, reset, and you answer some very vital questions. Why do I pray salah? Does it benefit Allah when I pray salah? Or does it benefit me? How does it benefit me? And why does Allah SWT ask me to pray salah? Once you start answering these questions, that's when a person understands, okay, I'm praying salah because Mubeen needs it. I need it. Not because it's further upon me, not because I have to, but the benefit that I get out of it, I can't go without those benefits. I think a common question that a lot of people ask is that, when it comes to youth especially, that how do I safeguard my gaze, right? So everyone says, don't look at haram, Don't look at that picture. Don't look at that snap. Don't look at there. And it's like, how do I do that? Right?
Yeah, that was a question too.
See, it's a common question. But if you look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha. Salah prevents you from, immoral things, looking at immoral things, or engaging in immoral things. Because once you pray your salah, now you're thinking to yourself, okay, if I do something haram, that's going to wipe my salah out. It's going to erase my salah. I'm going to lose the reward in the spirituality of my salah. And that's when a person will be like, no, I need my salah. Right? And they stay away from stuff like that. When you don't think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. But if you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiple times a day, isn't it saying that out of sight, out of mind? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is out of sight, He's out of your mind. That means you're no longer God conscious. You don't have taqwa. When you don't have taqwa, then you're not thinking of Allah. It becomes very easy to fall into those things. I hope to answer that question.
Yeah.
It's a struggle that everybody's kind of fights. How do I feel more connected to Allah, especially in my salah, in my ibadah, so that I can, so it's not a burden on me. And my best advice for that is understand who Allah is, fall in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then understand that praying salah is not for Him, but it's for you. The benefit that you get from it, you can't do without it. I can't do without it.
All right. So going into the next question, someone asked, can you pray just for salah throughout the day and then combine all of your sunnah at the end of the day?
Okay. So can you pray first salah throughout the day? Now let's look at the definition, right? The definition of each of these things. You have fard, sunnah, nawafil. Fard is that which is mandatory upon you, right? No matter what, you have to do it. A person who doesn't believe in fard, they leave the fold of Islam. If a person says that I don't believe in fajr, because I gotta wake up out of my bed, they leave the fold of Islam. Sunnah is something the Prophet ﷺ did, something the Prophet encouraged. You get two different types of sunnah. You get the sunnah muakkada, which the Prophet ﷺ always did. The sunnah, the ghayr muakkada, the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he did it, sometimes he didn't do it. And then you get nafil, as the Prophet ﷺ, if he had time, he did it, right? So you categorize these four like this. Fard, mandatory, you have to do. Sunnah, and sunnah goes into two parts. Muakkada and ghayr muakkada. Muakkada are those that the Prophet ﷺ always did. Ghayr muakkada, the Prophet ﷺ sometimes left out. And then you have nafil. Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ did it. He wasn't really, pushing for it. Now, the reason why the definition is important is to understand that our farad is what's mandatory upon us. Everything else, in reality, is not mandatory, right? The Prophet ﷺ commanded us to pray sunnah, but when it comes to farad, if you don't, again, in many different schools of thought, you actually leave the fold of Islam. There's a strong punishment for a person who leaves his salahs intentionally, and Allah in one hadith, Prophet ﷺ said that person will be in the fire of Jahannam for 80 uqads. And some people ask, what was an uqad? And they say about 1,000 years for a person who intentionally misses a farad salah. Now, so first we understand that praying farad salah is mandatory. That does not go anywhere. The sunnah salah, again, the Prophet ﷺ commanded us. He always prayed, especially the ghayr muakkada. The muakkada. So if you only have time for farad, you can still get away with that. However, you want to at least pray the muakkada, because those are the ones that the Prophet ﷺ always prayed, and he didn't leave, and he really pushed us for it. Now, why do we pray sunnah? What's the purpose of a sunnah salah? Right. So I think that's a good question. Right. The purpose of a sunnah salah is to prepare you for your farad salah. Right. For example, what's the purpose of wudu? Why do we do wudu? Right. if you go think about it logically, wudu makes no sense because something happens at a different area of your body, and you're wiping this area of your body. You're wiping your arms. You're wiping your feet. And how does that make sense? Um, and the purpose of wudu is to prepare you for salah, so that you're doing something before you come and stand in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, which means you don't just roll out of your bed, pray salah by the foot of your bed, but you have to do something that gets you ready to now stand in front of Allah. Because if I didn't have to do wudu, I would probably play salah in my bed.
Yeah, I think we
Right?
talked about that last week too. Where
And what did we talk about last week?
I think we talked about this specific thing last week too, that you can't just roll out of bed and then pray salah.
So that's the same reason why sunnah is, why we have to pray sunnah, because it prepares you for your farad. It gets you in the zone of farad. For example, the Prophet ﷺ, before he went to Arafah, Arafah is the main part of Hajj, right? If a person doesn't go to Arafah, then their Hajj does not count. But to get in the zone for Arafah and to maximize on his Arafah, the day before, the Prophet ﷺ went to Mina, and he spent that day in Mina, right? The purpose of him spending that day there is to kind of, get into the zone and, start to focus, start to connect himself with Allah. Now, when the day of Arafah comes, it's, it's a very solid salah, solid day of worship. Likewise with salah, we pray our sunnah. The purpose of it is so that once we start our farad, we're really connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, however, there is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that on the day of judgment, a person who has salahs missing, who missed out a few farad salahs, or who has gaps in his farad salahs when accountability is happening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask that, does he have any sunnah salahs that we can fill in the gaps with the sunnahs?
Wow.
And then those that you miss, so let's say you miss Fajr's hard, you miss all your Fajrs. You just have 4 salahs a day, or maybe some days 3, maybe some days 1. But you have a bunch of gaps. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, how many sunnahs does he have? And then those sunnahs are put into place. So that shows the importance, right? So we understand the reason. The reason is to prepare you for salah. We understand the importance. The importance is because it fills in those gaps on the day of judgment. And now what's important to understand is the hukam. The hukam is the ruling of it, right? The ruling of it is if you pray after or not in this position, it won't give you the same benefit, right? Because you are praying it to prepare you for salah, but you prayed that salah a long time ago, and you're praying this at the end of the day. What are you preparing for? You know what I mean? So it's in that order that you really maximize on the benefit. And I always tell people this. Always look at the reasoning why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to do things. Sometimes we might not be able to comprehend. Sometimes we might think of an easier way out. But we look at the purpose. What is the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having us do certain things? And by that we understand, it becomes easier to do.
That makes sense. Okay. So just one last thing, the Sunnatul Muakkada, there are 12 sunnats in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
12 sunnats in a day. You want to listen out for us?
Okay. So two before Fajr.
And these two, the Prophet really, really emphasize.
So there's 4 before Dhuhr and then 2 after Dhuhr.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 after Maghrib and then 2 after Isha.
Yep. There you go.
And those are the Sunnatul Muakkada that they're recommended to pray.
Yes, highly, highly recommended. And okay. There are many narrations where the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever prays these 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a palace for this person prepared in Jannah.
Wow.
Right? He has a house prepared from now in Jannah, whoever sticks to praying these 12.
Okay. I think we have a comment or question by Hamza Suhails in the...
For some reason, my comments are blocked. I can't see any comments. I can't see any, it's still something 3 people, are viewing. The last comment I have is from Ali that says, so, I'm not sure why. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure why either. So Hamza Sohail, he asked, how does the punishment of the grave occur if you never got one? Example, if you get left on the battlefield. I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, I think I understand. I understand.
Okay.
So there was a person who lived a life of sin. A person who lived a life of sin, and he, at the time of his death, he told his children that what I want you to do is I want you to burn my body after I die because I don't want to be buried in the ground, so that I can avoid the punishment of the grave. I want you to bury my body and then take the ashes and go and spread the ashes out throughout the desert, right? And whatever bones are remaining, feed them to the camels or stuff like that. And on the day of judgment, the Prophet ﷺ said this person will be presented, and it goes through a long process that the person is burnt. The ashes, the camels eat the ashes. The camels, they drop their feces somewhere. Somebody comes and uses the feces as fuel. They light a fire. That fire goes up in smoke, and that person never had any existence anymore, right? So the first thing is that, number one, the Rasulullah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more than capable of putting us back together on the day of judgment, right? On the day of judgment. But now let's say if somebody dies and they were never buried in a grave, right? If somebody, I think Hamza was saying, the example that they're using, this Hamza used, is kind of an extreme example, like the battlefield. And so, like, the guy's body blows up and he never was put into an actual grave. We have to understand that the life of the grave is based off of our ruh, is based off of our soul. It's not based off of our body.
Okay.
Right? So, because our body, in a matter of a short period of time, our body deteriorates in the grave. You then only have bones, and then those bones, that's it, right? So what you understand is the punishment of the grave, or the life of the grave, is not connected to your body, but it's connected to your soul. So if a person was never buried, let's say, for example, a person, and Allah subhanahu protect us, fell off of a ship, and fishes came and ate, or you're like that Tiger King, and a tiger comes and eats you, right? In that case, your ruh will be held in alim al-arwah. Alim al-arwah is the world of the ruhs, and that person will be given punishment there, right? So even our bodies, let's say for example, majority graves are actually reused. If you go to Medina Munawwara and Jannah al-Baqi, they actually have like a 6-year period, and then they reuse that grave and they redig the grave. So your grave, so it's not about practically there, or literally your body, or literally that space in that ground. However, there are some narrations that say no, it's that space in the ground, and somebody redug a grave and they found some person being tortured. There are those stories as well, but what we understand is that the punishment of the grave is actually done to the ruh, or not only the punishment, but even the reward that person gets is done to the ruh. Because the narration says that a person who answered the questions right, their grave expands as far as the eye can see. I think we understand that all is in the matters of ruh. Now, when it comes to the soul and the ruh, one of the things we have to understand that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, and they ask you about the soul. People are curious about the soul because it doesn't make sense. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds back, say that the soul is from the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, min amrillah, and that we haven't been given much knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it. It's beyond our comprehension, the way that it works. But we understand there's 2 different parts of a person's body. the actual physical body, a person's existence, the actual physical body, and then the rule, and the punishment of the grave will be to the rule. If a person does not receive it, a grave, then the rule will give that punishment or reward.
So this one's kind of an interesting question. If I notice my parents doing something wrong, example, backbiting, what is the correct way of correcting?
All right, so let's say if you know your parents doing something wrong, and the example here is backbiting. What is the correct way of correcting them? And I think backbiting is a very, it's a very easy correction because, either you can just leave and not be a part of it, but then again, they would be still engaged in the sin. Or it could be, many other different things. They're looking at stuff, they're talking about stuff, they're dealing in stuff and things that are haram. But we look at the story of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's father was engaged in something haram. Which was? What was he engaged in?
Oh.
What was it? Huh?
I don't remember.
He used to make idols.
Oh, yeah.
He used to make idols, and then he would sell idols, sell these gods, and people would worship these gods, and he would, worship the gods as well. And when Ibrahim alayhi, so he's in the same situation that you and I are, right? And that's the beauty of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about all these stories, because somewhere at some level we connect with these stories. The only thing is that we gotta find that connection, right? Ibrahim alayhi, his father disobeys Allah, and now our question is, what if our parents disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do we correct them? Is the way that how Ibrahim alayhi corrects them. And we see that Ibrahim alayhi first, he gives his father a solution. He says that, would it be better to worship one God than all of these idols? And his father, shot it down. No, you don't know anything about this, right? And he politely puts his case forward, right? He gives a solution, then he politely puts his case forward, and then the third thing, if they still don't listen, Ibrahim alayhi leaves them, and then number 4, he makes dua for him, right? And I think that's really important, that you understand that, your parents will always be your parents. They'll always be older. They'll always will have seen more of the world than you. So they might not take some of the stuff that you say. And at that point, you need to know when it's time to back out.
Because there's still a level of adab that's being played there. Because at the end of the day, they're older. They're still your parents.
Yeah. So and that's when you look at Ibrahim alayhi, he doesn't lose adab. He didn't become disrespectful. He didn't say, you're going to burn in Jannah, right? But he told his father, and then at the end he goes, okay, I'm out. But I'm going to make dua for you, and I'm going to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you. And then, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrects Ibrahim alayhi for that part. The other thing that we look at is Hassan and Hussein radiallahu ta'ala. Hassan and Hussein radiallahu ta'ala, they came to, I think, first of all, it's important whenever you correct somebody and whenever you try to stop somebody from sin, the first thing that you understand is that doing it so in public is never the way to go, right? If there's something about me that you don't like, or if I'm doing it wrong, by correcting me in public, that's just asking me to, just shoot down your suggestion or not take your advice. Yeah. But the correct way is that you, number 1, you correct a person in private. Number 2, you do it in a nice manner. And the reason being is that when you look at the story of Musa alayhi wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa alayhi wasalam that go to Fir'aun, فَقُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيْنًا, and speak to him in a soft tone. Speak to him nicely. Why? So that he might accept. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us that if you want somebody to accept what you're saying, then number 1, speak to them nicely. Don't get aggressive. Don't get like, oh, this is haram and that's haram. I'm gonna bring this quote, I'm gonna bring that quote, and this hadith and this sheikh said this. You know, they're your parents. They maybe you've learned a little bit more Islam than them, but you still have to, like you said, you have to have that adab. You have to have that respect. And in Surah Musa that we learned that speak to them nicely. Now Hassan and Hussein they saw a person, an older uncle that was doing wudu. Right? So he was doing wudu, and the older uncle was doing it wrong. Right? We went over the conditions, he wasn't doing his conditions properly. So they wanted to correct him, and they wanted to do so in a way that he wouldn't get offended. So what they did is, instead of saying to him that you missed a spot here, or you're doing this wrong, that's not how you do it. They went to him and said, we're gonna do wudu. Can you watch us and make sure that we're doing it correctly? If we have any mistakes, let us know. And they did wudu, and they left from there. And the person who narrates it is the older gentleman, and he goes that, they were not trying to make me correct their wudu, they were making me correct my wudu. They were teaching me, they showing me how to do it. So what we understand from this is that it's always important that you don't get confrontational, and you kind of go with wisdom. You learn how to deal with these situations. I think like a lot of times people, when they're learning Islam or they're kind of like just kind of finding their ways, they become over emotional and really like fiery. That no, I have to make sure everybody's on the hook, right? And if somebody's not on the hook, I'm gonna call them out, right? You gotta be a little bit wise, and play your cards right.
Okay. So the next few questions are going to be kind of interesting. So the first one is, I have a girlfriend or have a significant other. Can I still fast?
Okay. If you have a significant other, then yeah, of course, I have a significant other as well.
No, like
I know. Yes, absolutely. So this is an important question, right? The reason why this question is important, because a lot of time what happens is people, because of their sins, they will stop doing ibadah. Now, let's say, for example, a person is engaged in something haram. It could be relationship with the opposite gender. It can be, it can be, selling dope, right, or smoking weed. Should this sin of theirs stop them from doing good? Should this sin of them stop them from fasting or stop them from praying to Allah? And the answer is absolutely not. Right? That sin, so if you have a sin, number one is remedy that sin, fix that sin up. Right? Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, leave the sin. So if you're really concerned of the weight between the two, then remedy it. And if you can't fix it, then you should still hold on to your worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Because any form of worship that you have is you getting closer to Allah. So, and if a person is engaged in a sin, and again, like I said before, a girlfriend is just one example. The reality is that everybody has different sins that we all do.
Yeah.
So if this person who has a girlfriend, says that, oh, I have a girlfriend, I shouldn't fast, or I smoke weed, I shouldn't fast, or I shouldn't pray my salah, then everybody has sins. In their own different ways. Then nobody's going to be praying in salah, or nobody's going to be fasting. So it's important that don't let your sins stop you from ibadah, because if you're sinning, then you really need ibadah. Right? So if I were to say that it's a person who doesn't sin or a person that sins, which one needs ibadah more? It's a person that sins that kind of needs closeness to Allah. This person needs that as well. So, but it's important that don't let your sins stop you from worshiping Allah.
Okay. The next one is listening to music haram?
Is listening to music haram? That's a long question. So number one, yes, it is. Right? The Prophet ﷺ in one hadith says, النفاق الغناء ينبت النفاق في القلب كما ينبت الماء الزرع. That music plants water, music plants hypocrisy in the hearts, the way that water plants crops. And another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Al-mazamiru." Basically, bells are the flutes of shaitan. Rasulullah says, the bells are the flutes of shaitan. So now we look at why is music haram, right? So to understand, is music haram? If I say yes, you're going to say, but Sheikh Mubeen, why? And you have to understand that music plays with your emotions. Whatever emotion that you have at the moment, music will change those emotions. For example, you go to a funeral, right? And they'll have a special type of music playing there to make people feel sad. You go to a sporting event, and they'll have a special type of music playing there to make everybody feel hyped.
Yeah.
You go to a wedding, and you have a special type of music to make everybody feel happy. So everywhere that you go, you see there'll be different types of music, and the music's effect will be that it will change your emotions, right? Now, and this is why the Prophet ﷺ says it plants hypocrisy, because you haven't addressed these emotions, and you put up another layer of emotions on top of it, right? So what Islam says, anywhere that you are, are losing control of your senses or of your emotions, that's prohibited. So this is why music in this case, it is prohibited in Islam. Now, one is that you might hear music. You go to the gas station, it's playing, you hear it. The other is, that you're listening to it, actively listening to it. Now, if a person is actively listening, which of course is probably majority of America, I think that's really important that if you are engaged in a sin, to always just have that realization that inshallah one day I want to stop. Right? One day I want to stop it. As long, don't let that sin stop you from coming to the masjid. Oh, I listen to music, and people are gonna say that this is haram, that's haram. Understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in a way that we're weak, and inshallah, slowly I'll work on it, and maybe one day I might stop.
Inshallah. So what you're saying, I don't have to like deactivate my Spotify subscription.
If you can do it, then alhamdulillah. If you can do it in Ramadan, that's
inshallah one day. Inshallah one day.
Inshallah one day. We'll work on it, but definitely not in Ramadan. Put the brakes on that.
Okay, inshallah. So the next one is it permissible for men within the scenario of COVID-19 to do itikaf within their rooms?
So itikaf within your room. So in the COVID-19 situation, I think the permissibility of doing itikaf at home has opened up. However, I don't think that a person can be allowed to do itikaf in their own room because they really haven't done anything. Right? Itikaf is when you leave your comfort zone and you go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to a designated place, and like you're basically at the doorstep of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's house. If you are in your own room, then you haven't left your comfort zone. You haven't made any sacrifice. So in that case, itikaf in your room wouldn't count. Again, if there's a designated place in your house that's like a musalla area, and you stay there for a majority of the time, go to the restaurant if you need to, come back, sleep in the area, then I think that would count as itikaf.
Okay. So the next question is, a lot of times parents look down upon a child when the child is correcting them in their deen and reply with, "You're just a kid, you don't understand." What are some tips to deal with this? I think this one's a little interesting because most youth like our age, they're really exposed to this because a lot of adults are like, "You don't understand, you're just a kid," and it leads to a lot of other things like in your maybe in your career, in your faith, in your deen, anything like that.
So let's tackle this one next week. The reason being is I actually start a session in like 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Of course.
So I have another session that's starting in 10 minutes with
Okay.
Faraz and One. So
Okay.
again, this one will take a long time, and I think it's really important to understand. It's really important that we understand this one
Definitely.
because it affects the person in many different ways. So I think next week Ali is
Oh, he's the one, yeah.
Ali the one that's kind of hosting next week. If you want to shoot this over to him, inshallah, we can add this to next week's session. Again, I know we didn't get through as many as we should have, but I think it's really important to understand some of these questions and
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
the meaning behind it as well.
Okay.
Inshallah.
So Jazakallah khair for getting on.
Absolutely, inshallah, absolutely. And Jazakallah khair for having me. I think these sessions they're really fun, mashallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. They're
We've had 3 sessions so far. I think all 3 are really good. Next week is with Ali, so I know that one's going to be fun as it is. But alhamdulillah, again, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this one a lot easy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to get near to Him and get closer to Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us to pray us Allah. We ask Allah that He makes it easy for us to be obedient to our parents. He gives us wisdom. He helps us out in all of our affairs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us understand our religion and take halal for halal and take haram for haram. He gives us the ability to stay away from sin. He gives us the ability to connect through our good deeds and really connect to our deeds. Inshallah, Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen.
Just one last thing before you leave.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see the comments, but Ali and Farhan.
I can't see the comments. I don't know. I'm missing all the comments today. My comments are my comments are blocked, and it's still only like 3 people on here: me, you, and somebody else. That's it.
Farhan said, "Sheikh Mubeen does not cap. I live by that." Specifically mentioned that.
I'm gonna have to come back and watch the video later on, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. All right, Iqra. Sorry, you want to say my name? Okay.
Who?
All right, with that, Iqra Ansari.
Iqra Ansari. Oh, mashallah, Iqra Ansari. She's actually she's from Chicago. She's from Chicago. One of the old students at MEC. MEC, mashallah, has a really good YN batch as well, mashallah.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go. I don't want to hold you. All right, just
absolutely, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, that's right. I really appreciate it. Again, hopefully we can do this again next week. And maybe even after the month of Ramadan. I think we need to carry on. Yeah. I think these are really good discussions.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't even see them as lectures. I think there's discussion, talking with one another,